So with the addiction, let's say for example, alcohol, right?
Okay.
Every time you get off, you just go, man, I'm gonna just have a beer. I'm gonna just have a beer. I'm celebrating the day. I'm celebrating the day. And then you treat every day like it's a bad day. I'm gonna have a beer. Good day, I'm gonna have a beer. Man, this conversation
get numb to it.
Yeah, I'm about to have a beer. That's what I call building immunity. You're building this immunity to it. You're building an immunity to it, and it's becoming an emotional crutch.
Makes
so
sense.
Even when, because then what you see is if we're not processing our emotions and we're using addiction as a tool to create a temporary soothing, right? What you doing when you ain't drunk?
Welcome to the Warrior's Way Home podcast.
What's up, Warriors? Thank you for joining us again on the Warrior's Way Home podcast. I'm your host, Edmund, with Travis, again, my brother. We have a special guest for you today. We're here with Jason Shankle. He is the owner of Inner Self and Wisdom, LLC. He is also the founder of the Black Mental Health and Wellness Coalition, and also the host of the Supreme Conscious Roots podcast. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect. Yeah. So we have a mental health specialist here for you guys. We've been talking a lot about, self-mastery and masculinity, but it's time that we dig a little bit deeper into that mental health piece here. So Jason, thank you so much for joining us, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Sorry.
Yeah. So Jason Shankle, I have a private therapy practice coming up on as the owner since 9 years. So coming up January to be a decade. I ended up coming back to my hometown. I'm from Denver. I'm from Park Hill. My hometown. Opened up the practice. I'm an author. I'm also known as Black Azar. So I've written 3 books. Working on my 4th book. And as he had spoken about, executive director of the Black Mental Health and Wellness Coalition, and doing a lot of work and collaborating with admin and stuff like that. So, but just finishing up things and adapting, and yeah, man, those are some things about me.
Nice, man.
Excellent.
Nice.
Very happy to have you.
Appreciate it. Opportunity to get a free session. I'm right now. I'm joking.
Right.
Let me pull my list of all my problems. So see, here we go.
Let's get cookies. So what would you do? Oh, man. Sounds familiar. Huh.
Right.
Sound like my family member.
Right.
All right.
Oh man, love it.
So, Jason, can you tell us what led to you specializing in mental health support? I know it's specifically for the Black community and people of color, but how did you approach getting into this type of business and establishing, health and wellness for our people?
To the name, inner self and wisdom, you got to go within. And wisdom is not just doing everything right. It's, I sat with the concept of the name of the business before even going into it, because you have to name it to tame it, and not only with trauma, but also with the direction of your purpose. And why? So you think about this concept of wisdom, oftentimes when I was younger, we would think that wisdom was doing everything right. But this is the thing, when you're actually requesting wisdom, you're asking for unlimited experiences to know the difference. Seeing someone playing a game or playing something to mastery, they have done it over and over again, and they had embraced the errors at some point. So what that tells me is that wisdom is not doing everything correct. Wisdom is not just, just learning things. It's also unlearning things. One of the main reasons why I started this practice, because 1, I'm a Black man, and 2, this is my community, and 3, this is what the ancestors have aligned me to do, because it's just that deep. And so, I want to take care of my people. And it's not just Black people that come see me. White people come see me. Asian people come see me because of my expertise and stuff like that. But in terms of starting this business, I have my people in mind and Black in mind, because I wasn't exposed to that.
Facts.
Very true.
Facts.
Yeah.
Man, I love that wisdom isn't doing everything right. Then I must be super wise then. Um, I actually joked around with a lot of clients. I'm a personal trainer, massage therapist by profession. So I used to tell clients all the time. They're like, "Man, you when you do this exercise, it looks so good." I was like, "That's because I figured out every way how not to do this exercise."
Right, right.
I was like, it's not because I'm
Mhm.
perfect at it. It's like it's because I failed so many times at this thing.
Thank you very much.
I was like, it's not about being perfect. It's about, are you willing to fail and keep going at it? It's like
Yeah,
it's like it's gonna be ugly at the beginning when you're trying something new, especially something you haven't tried before. It's gonna be ugly.
yeah, it's gonna be ugly.
hmm But so many people worry about perfection that they're not willing. I tell people, I'm just willing to fail more than you are. That's all it is. That's the only
Mm,
difference.
that's deep. I
It's the
like it.
only difference. Um, so Jason, how would for those who don't know how, and there's so many definitions that float around about some of these topics now, how would you define mental health to a client of yours who, if they've never, like, they don't really know what mental health describes, like what's all included in mental health, what kind of what does that all include? What would you say to them?
I would say mental health is your ability and aptitude to have self governance around the way that you navigate the world via trauma
Mm,
or via good things that happen, because there's also something called post traumatic growth. So it's not always
Mhm.
yes.
going to do
Yep.
bad things. So I would say mental health is really that self sovereignty within yourself, that you can actually operate in self care and soul care to the point to where, when things occur, you actually have tools for your subconscious, your conscious, and your unconscious. So, but mental health, I mean, I know it says mental in there, but there's also a lot of body work you got to do.
Mm, yeah.
So it's really loaded.
Mm.
I can see how people
Mm,
kind of get lost in the sauce. They just go, mental health is just about your head, but it's about your spirit. It's about your
Mhm.
all encompassing energy. And I just put it into the umbrella term of self sovereignty.
I like that. Self sovereignty.
Love
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
you're so right about the body thing. People don't realize how much trauma gets stored in the body. When
Mm,
something happens to you, I mean, that's why you get emotional releases when you get massage and these different things like that happen. Or people don't want to be touched in certain ways, or certain smells trigger certain things with people, or sounds. It's like that gets stuck in the body when you have certain experiences like that. And we're definitely going to dig into that piece a little bit later on for sure.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ready,
hmm
ready.
Absolutely. So, in your experience, what unique challenges do men face when acknowledging and addressing that trauma? Because men for sure are not taught how to handle that trauma, wherever it got it, whether it's emotional, mental, physical. Um, how does your approach help them overcome those barriers?
So the first part of your question, the thing that I see the most is in us is anger. Because this is the thing to remember,
Yep.
anger is the manifestation of hurt. That's out of my recipe book.
Mm,
Anger is the manifestation of hurt. So if you see a man tearing up a room and you're going, damn, he's angry, take that same vision of that man tearing up that room and go, dang, he's hurt. But if you was to say,
mm,
man, what you heard about, he said, I ain't heard about nothing. I'm angry that they disrespected me. I'm mad. It's just like, you're hurt. And
Mm,
mm,
as a man, um, the teachings of processing emotions was suffocated in terms of the social construct, and nobody had the plight of a black man in the discussion,
mm,
right?
mm,
You
mm,
just There's just more things that we have to interact and deal with. And then also there's this term, it's called the African warriors posture. In the Hispanic culture, they had got that from Africa. Everything started in Africa. I'm not going to get on that soapbox because this ain't a black history month. Everything has to go.
right, right,
oh,
right.
we can
Don't get
definitely
them
have that
started.
we can definitely have that conversation
Okay, yeah, man.
off stream for sure. For sure, we were going to have that
For
conversation.
sure.
Probably just not right now.
Not
That
right.
might be part two. That
You know what
might
I'm
be a
saying?
part two
Right,
in
right.
itself.
practicing self-governance here. I
Yeah.
could let it rip,
Mhm.
you know. Easy.
I feel you that I hold back most of the things I want to say.
Oh man, I let it out, you know. Some things I kind of, let me do this with compare, but I'm dropping it. But anyway.
Mhm.
Hey,
You know,
some of us got corporate jobs that we got to keep in. It's not me. So
yeah,
I'm just
man, I
saying
get
this.
it,
Like,
I get
I'm
it.
not in corporate.
we would have been canceled by now if I opened my mouth too much, probably.
I mean, you can get canceled even following the rules.
This is true.
So,
This is true.
Hey, say that.
I mean, it's
Say
America,
that.
hello. But to the African warriors posture in the see, look at that. I'm rebounding, man. It's just that Dennis Rodman, man, come back. I'd have to go. Machismo is what that derived from. So I'm gonna speak specifically
Mm,
to that piece when you said, what is it I often see? It's the African warrior's posture. The message is you can't hurt me. So just imagine laying in armor all the time and your house becomes a living quarter because
mm,
you're
Mm,
constantly emotionally on the move. And even if you're in a relationship that is toxic that you shouldn't be in, and you with somebody that's like, oh man, this is really, really toxic, then your house becomes a foxhole. If
mm,
anybody familiar with military terminology, right, that foxhole right there, you ready to die because something pop up about that hole, you jump out, you got to go ahead and clip it. You got
mm.
to,
mhm.
So I'm preaching to the choir here because
Woo! Oh man.
I'm
Woo!
preaching to the choir. So this stop living foxholes, right?
Mhm.
In the synchronicity around our environments and how we, operate in our circles or who we let in our circles and stuff like that. So that's one of
Right.
the biggest things I see is this toxic reliance on anger. And when you hear anger, you might as well hear hurt. So this toxic reliance on hurt. You see what I did there? Because we got to name it,
Mhm.
name it.
Mm,
You can't just sit here and go, I got a problem, and then that's not my problem. If there was an equation right here, I'd write problem, line, you. You the common denominator in all your problems. So let's not bullshit
Mm.
mm,
games, right? But that's one of the things that I noticed the most. But if you're not taught these lessons to process your emotions, you're only going to be in survival mode enough to get to the next phase and stage of that relationship or your life. And it's specific to
Mhm.
black man and man, period, but really specific to black man.
Mhm.
man. Let me turn the spotlight off of me real quick because I feel like it's just like I feel a little personally, like what you've been watching me? What's going on?
But you
Somebody's
know
been reading
what?
my diary.
Yeah, I know.
It's like-
Well, he's
But
good.
you
He's
know what that does? Yeah. What that does is it speaks to everybody, man. That's something that if you feel like it touches you personally, it just means that you're not the only one going through that thing. But the
Mm,
trap of anger, I feel, is that most people feel like they're the only one who's angry. They're the only ones who are affected by this particular type of hurt or whatever it is. So then if society is telling me that I can't be outwardly expressive of my frustration or my anger, whether it's a healthy form or not, I mean, just as an example, and I'm having a lot of thoughts that are coming to mind when we talk about this, is that, part of the reason why we got into this was because of martial arts and what martial arts has done for us. But then a lot of people who are not privy to the discipline and the forging of a new person that goes into martial arts, they think it's just violence. It's just mindless violence and two guys in a cage trying to rip each other's head off, and they don't really understand that the personal trials these people have to go through, even just to put on a show like that, the courage and just everything that it takes to step into the ring, and all they see is the blood that ends up hitting the canvas at the end of the night. What would you say are some more healthier ways? Not to say that martial arts is unhealthy, because that's not what we promote here, but what would you say are some healthy ways of getting through that anger so that you can really get to that hurt and heal from it?
Some things to get to that anger is to capitalize on the morning. What you practice becomes your habits. Your habits become your
Mhm.
routine. And then your routines become your spiritual, and you cannot spell spiritual without ritual.
Mm,
Say it again.
Mm.
Whatever you practice becomes your habits. Your habits become routines, and then your routines become your ritual. You can't spell spiritual without ritual. And that's out of my
Heavy.
recipe and just walking. So what I'm saying is with the things that you practice hurt, you practice anger, you practice dysfunction. Because that's why, when you practice it enough and healthy stuff show up, that's why you don't know what to damn do.
Right.
Oftentimes. So some of the things to practice is what is the morning routine you start off with, right? Do you read and do something for your mind? What are your no compromises? I get it.
mm,
We live in a
Mm.
society where we're like, hey, we want to be everybody included, everybody get participation awards. No, no, we're not doing that in here. We're going to take some emotional accountability, right? And so when
Mm.
you're using some of these tools, i.e., maybe get up and reading some African Stoicism, and maybe get up right lighting some resin. Maybe get up if you're spiritual and you're in the ether, calming your ori and putting coconut water on your head, and or if you're practicing Ramadan, Ramadan Mubarak. If you're practicing that right now, really hitting Shalat, and then fasting, fasting could be or emotional detoxing, or checking those
Mm.
expiration dates of some of those relationships that's taking up your emotional equity illegitimately that you
mm,
participating in.
mm-hmm,
There's always something to work.
Mm.
So it's not even a one size fits all, but that is some things with us men we can focus on, right? What are the things that cool our head when the fire isn't around?
mm.
That's the part.
Wow.
And stop living so reactionary, because that's the
Just thinking
thing.
that. Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's
Hmm.
why the tools wasn't passed down.
Yeah.
Mm.
Process your emotions for what? And then when you're in tune with your emotions, somebody want to say you too emotional. It's like, man, I'm balanced.
Mm,
And your approval is not required for me to be healthy.
Mm.
mm.
Say that.
Man.
For
Yeah. That. That.
putting the control back in their hands. Go ahead,
Mhm.
Travis. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, just I would say taking your power back.
Mhm.
Honestly, is a lot of what it sounds like. Because most of us just get up and we just go. It's not one of those things we don't think about. A lot of guys don't think about themselves. The first thing I heard a guy say, he said, when I pop up in the morning, he was asking his wife this, and he said, he asked her, he said, what do you think about first thing in the morning? And she was naming all the things that she has to do and da 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 da. And he was saying the first thing I think about is you. He doesn't think about himself. He thinks about her, the kids, this, the work, the bills, the this, the that. But he's the last thing, and sometimes not even at all, that he thinks about in the morning. And I was like, man, I was
Mm.
like, I couldn't tell you the last time I woke up and thought, man, it's like, what about me? Is this usually like, what do I got to do today? What fights do I have to fight? What fires do I have to put out? What do I have to go conquer today? It's usually not like
Mm.
I'm not the best. I'll be honest. I'm not the best about setting myself up in the morning for a rich personal ritual that's going to set myself up in a positive way. A lot of times I just get up and I just go, and I think a lot of guys are like that.
Mhm.
Um, one of my questions is, what are some of the warning signs, whether we're seeing it in ourselves or we're seeing it in friends or family members or different things like that, that somebody is maybe going through a mental health crisis, and really struggling, to deal with some of the things they got going on, because a lot of unfortunately, a lot of today is people making permanent decisions on temporary situations that are
Mhm.
going on. A
Mm.
lot of I talk pretty openly about my mental health stuff, suicide attempts and different things like that. But I've also had multiple friends who, all of them happen to be in the military and different things like that. But I've had probably 5 people in the last 3 to 4 years that have committed suicide, and it's one of those things like, man, what did I miss, in dealing with you? That what did I did not what did and it's one of those things you don't really want to blame yourself in that situation, but it does pop in your head that question, like, is there something that I missed along the way with that maybe I could have, headed this off before it happened, type deal. So what are some warning signs that people, maybe should look out for in themselves and in people who they care about in their realm, as far as like mental health crisis and things like that go on?
Yeah, to speak to that piece for people, one textbook thing. I just want to hit on the textbook thing, and you
Mm-hmm.
have individuals just giving personal items away to an extent that you, it's dependent on how close you know this person. So I
Mm-hmm.
just want to also mention that the textbook marker of giving away items that you know
Mm-hmm.
dealing with this person. And for people also, I would say to that stands out to notice is that emotional isolation. You know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
depression is a part of the human experience. So to say I'm looking for depression is illogical, because we all experience depression
Yeah.
and anxiety, and I get it. I'm a professional in this field, so I'm gonna look at it different. But that's an
Mm-hmm.
important marker, right? And then when you're engaging with individuals, because like you said, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I've been in this field for a long time, so I've seen a lot. And coupled with that phrase is it's a decision.
Yes,
You know,
definitely.
um,
Absolutely.
a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it's a right or wrong, or but they have got to the place uh, of immense hopelessness, right?
Mm-hmm.
To come to such a decision, because it's evident they're, even if they're saying they're not making up their mind, they're making up their mind. They
Yeah.
didn't just fall into that. So that's what I would say is some of those markers. Watch out for the emotional isolation, and then also the vices and addictions that
Yes.
we all have,
Mm-hmm.
because addiction is not just cocaine and alcohol. Man, you could be addicted to arguing. You
Mm.
could be addicted to dysfunction. You could get addicted to
Mm-hmm.
being an arrogant ass
Mm-hmm.
because you feel like you got to be this way, and you're drunk on it.
Yeah.
So when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about seeing signs, that is classic. And then that part that you're talking about is the second phase of the grief process, called bargaining, the coulda,
Mm-hmm.
shouldas. So when we go
Mm-hmm.
into coulda, woulda, shouldas, we say, did I see something? Was it that conversation? Should I have stayed longer? Man, when he called me, was it a voicemail or
Yeah.
something like that?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like seeing a movie you've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what parts are coming up,
True.
but you can be aware. And then it's having explicit conversations. That's what I would say. If you feel something intuitively, you just gotta go, man, what's going on, man? I'm your sounding board. Let
Yeah.
me let me, hear what's going on. I'm sensing some stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
that day, because you think about it, that's probably consistent. It's a repetitious thing. Every day is a new life. So we also want to get out of this savior complex. Like, we're just going to say, man, I'm going to monitor this person. And next time I'm not going to catch it. This time I'm not going to miss it.
You
And
can't be around all the time. That's impossible.
Yeah.
it's impossible. But what you can
Mm-hmm.
do is strengthen the energy exchange. And that's why I privy that piece with a decision. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've been in this for a long time. I've seen a lot of stuff. And there's never really, markers to the point to where there's markers laying around, but unless you're willing to explicitly lean in, right? That's the thing that I would say. If you intuitively sense something, or if you're hearing some language, or you're just like, dang, he's sending me these songs. What is this
Mm-hmm.
mean? And what is this about it? And he's going through a divorce, and he's in the
Mm-hmm.
right place, and he's saying, I don't, man, I could just walk off the planet, or I could just,
Disappear.
those phrases.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the thing to lean
Mm-hmm.
into, not to take it as a colloquialism, and just kind of go
Mm-hmm.
like, well, bruh, when I hear you say that, I feel like you're thinking about harming yourself when I hear you say walk off the planet, bruh. Like, I love
Mm-hmm.
that, man. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
goes down. I'm kind of worried. That's what we need to normalize.
Mm-hmm.
We need
Yeah,
Yeah.
to
for
normalize
sure.
that type of compassion amongst us men. We need to normalize that.
for sure.
Hmm.
Man, I
I'm so
real
glad
quick,
you.
real quick, I want to
Yeah.
dig into something he said because I think it's real important. You mentioned addiction when we're talking about this, and the addiction rate in just this country alone has exploded. I mean, especially after COVID and everything like that. I mean, it went through the roof. Um, what role, what part do you think addiction plays with mental health and trauma and different things like that? I've had my own personal experiences with it. I've had, I've seen friends and family go through their addiction, and it a lot of times, I think people think it's just about people running away from their problems, but it almost seems like there's a deeper issue going on there.
Yeah, yeah. You think about it, it is it's the addiction becomes an emotional crutch.
Mm,
Even when you can't process your emotions, you're getting something out of it.
yeah.
You're getting something out of it. So, like I said, addictions is many things, but speaking about substance addiction piece, I'm also a substance addiction counselor as well. So I
Hmm.
had to study a lot of this stuff. And you think about it, it is, and then it's like that, with this addiction, and even with some men is pornography. You know what I mean? It's to the point to
Yep.
where it's like, well, it's because this is the thing. Think about the concept of this. An addiction is something that triggers the endorphins in your body in the most inauthentic way it can be, because it's so rooted in pleasure and
Mm.
removing self-control to the point to where you build an immunity. That's
Mm,
the thing. When we build immunity to addiction, that's when you know this is an addiction.
mm.
Addiction. So that's what I would say to that piece.
What do you mean by immunity?
So with the addiction, let's say for example, alcohol, right?
Okay.
Every time you get off, you just go, man, I'm gonna just have a beer. I'm gonna just have a beer. I'm celebrating the day. I'm celebrating the day. And then you treat every day like it's the bad day. I'm gonna have a beer. Good day. I'm gonna have a beer. Oh
Mm,
man, this
Hmm.
conversation about to
Get
be,
numb to it.
yeah, I'm about to have a beer. That's what I call building immunity. You're building this
okay.
Mm.
immunity to it. You're building an immunity to it, and it's becoming an emotional crutch.
Makes
So
sense.
even when, because then what you see is if we're not processing our emotions and we're using addiction as a tool to create a temporary soothing, right?
Hmm.
What you doing when you ain't drunk? It's
Oof.
conflict.
Yeah.
Thinking about getting drunk.
You think about getting drunk, it's like,
You
man, I
know.
need a shot right now. You know what I mean? This is the reason why I don't talk to you. And it's just like, well,
Hmm.
dang, a drunk tongue does never says sober things.
Mm,
Hmm.
I don't care
facts.
how much you think you're focused.
Hmm.
You have enough sauce, you get sizzled enough, you know. Yeah, and that's why with mental health, to me, is self-governance. Notice I'm not sitting here saying it's wrong to have an addiction, it's wrong to drink. No, it's self-governance.
Hmm. It's a
It's
choice.
self-governance.
It's a decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also have those people who the drug is paired with something else, like an activity or like pornography. That's the example that we're going with. Or it is going out to the bars or hanging with a certain group of people. It's never, anytime I've seen hardcore addiction, it's never just the addiction. It's
Oh,
always something in addition to it. You know what I mean? And or there's a trigger to it. And that's why when you talk about that, you get people who are functioning alcoholics or they're functional on whatever that thing is. They've built up such a tolerance to it. They can go to work, after having a couple martinis, or they can go on a lunch break and have a beer and come right back. And that, I think, when we get into stuff like that, people don't realize how bad the situation, well, how one-sided the situation is, because they are functioning under that. And then people around them are like, yo, why does it smell like Coors in the office?
mhm,
It's 3 o'clock kind of thing. Or,
mhm,
why does it always smell like weed after your lunch break? Or, those kind of things. But
mhm.
you're right. I never looked at mental health as that self-governing piece. It was always just a piece of the puzzle. It wasn't how the whole mechanism works. You know what I mean? Because you had mentioned having a ritual, and I have set a ritual for myself within the past week to be able to hit the things that I think are good for my body, my mind, and my spirit. Right, but it is overall really good for that mental health piece, because it is like I feel way better in the morning, even though if I'm getting up kind of early, I get enough stuff done for me so that I can move on with the rest of my day, which is getting my kid ready, going to work, being a manager, all the other good stuff. But so much of what you do, even just within the first hour of the day, is you're right, it is setting you up for that, quote unquote success for what you're doing, because I notice when I'm not doing that routine or any routine that I've set up for myself in the morning, I do feel a little bit different. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't have everything in control, which is why wouldn't you want to start your day with as much control as you can have? You know what I mean?
Hey, bro.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man. How'd that meeting with your boss go, man? You were asking about that raise, weren't you?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, man, but we had a lot of meetings real recently, so it's been hard to kind of like, get her to sit down with me. But I'm working on it.
Yeah, that sounds like a damn excuse to me, bro. Because you were all hype about it last time we talked about it. When we talked about it last week, I'm gonna march right into her office and look her dead in the eyes and demand what I'm owed.
Plus, remember that.
This is what
Yeah,
I do.
it's just she busy. She a director, so I gotta wait. I gotta just wait my time and just get in there when I can.
Nah, man, you gotta show her, man. You gotta command that respect. We got this course. We're teaching guys how to elevate themselves, take themselves to the next, that next level in their life and their business and their career.
Yeah.
And you sitting there talking about ducking your boss, asking for what you want.
All right. So I'm gonna meet with her on Monday. Okay, give me a couple days. I'll meet with her on Monday. First thing Monday.
You know what happens if you don't? Penalty box, baby.
Right. Okay.
Burpees.
No burpees for me. I don't want burpees. So look, I know you've been in this scenario before. It's hard to ask somebody who you think is above you for the respect that you need and what you're asking for, whether it's resources, a raise, or respect. What you can do is start to build that self-respect that you need in our 8 Inner Gates course. Join us and go through 8 different principles where you can start to develop honor, respect, integrity, compassion for yourself and for others, and lots of other things as well. So make sure to hit the link in the bio where you can get to our 8 Inner Gates course and start to become the well-rounded man that you need to be in life.
So how would you define that? So what I'm hearing is like the addiction, and whether it's, pornography, drugs, or rage or whatever, there's like a trauma response. How would you define a trauma response for people? And can you give some more examples?
Yeah, to talk about trauma responses, we have to talk about trauma triggers, and you think about this, because the thing is what we do not work on and heal will always come to the surface somehow, and that surface is the response. This is kind of like if somebody, it's even if you had a pet peeve, if you have a pet peeve with people chewing with their mouth open, like I do, you know what I mean? I'm not the mouthpiece to that, but my kids do that. They know how I am. I'm like, hey.
I thought I was going to kick you off here, man. When you said that, I was like, if you tell me you keep your mouth open,
yeah. Oh, see, look at that, man. He's triggered. You see?
Yes, man. I am.
Exhibit A.
He's withdrawing, man.
Guilty.
Like,
guilty.
You're
absolutely
withdrawing, man.
I had a flashback just now. Thanks.
Look at that. It's the stuff that comes to the surface that's the response. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes when we are suppressing things, they can only stay there so long because it's an implosion before explosion, right? Mm-hmm. So when we talk about, how to keep a pulse on the trauma responses is being able to identify the triggers, because we got to be able to name it to tame it. If you can't name it, you fight in the dark. You name it, you fight in the light. Mm-hmm. And if you're aware, you can prepare. But that doesn't mean that everything comes your way. You kind of go, oh, man, I'm just hitting this thing with a stick every time it come around. That's why, once again, it's self-sovereignty. What are some of the philosophies I want to be curious about operating with or moving forward in this triggering thing that is happening in front of me? Mm-hmm. Or the person that's trying to come at me in a way that, man, I feel like this is disrespectful. And depending on the degree of it, and when you catch me or catch the person at that time, there's always a blip. When you look back, right, you kind of go, "Oh man, that was the wig." He said that. That don't mean every time you prepare for but that's the thing. When you are able to name it, you can tame it. And responses are just things that just come to the surface subconsciously. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have a response. What will you choose? And sometimes, hey, we don't get it right all the time. So I don't proclaim to sit here and just, project out like I make mistakes all the time, but I work on my mind. My mind is mine.
Mm-hmm.
My mind is mine. And people don't make you do things.
Yeah.
And people say, oh man, you making me do that. Oh man, they didn't
Me
make
feel like this. Yeah, I
come
hate.
on,
Oh,
man.
Right.
that's
Cut it
yeah,
out, man.
so
Take some
much.
accountability.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Really?
Facts.
Yeah, they did. They didn't make you do that. Feelings ain't facts.
Mhm.
He did not tell you pick this chair up and hit me in the head. Oh man, no, man. Oh, he made me do it, man. You see, he was talking to me like that. So is that the first person that talked to you like that? I mean, it seemed to me you're not dealing with stuff because the stuff is coming to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
This person got the energy of all the other people you wanted to say something to.
Mm.
Man,
Yeah.
I love that because I literally just talked to a friend last week about this where he was getting all hot and bothered about somebody was talking to him crazy at work. And he was like, "Man, what should I do about this?" And I'm like, "Well, first of all, like you want to calm down, you want to come at it rationally. I started asking him questions like, did you do this? How did you handle that? Did you send something to somebody that covers your ass in case you get in trouble at work, that kind of thing?" And then once he had calmed down, he had actually said that it was a temp. It was a temporary worker at the time. And I sat back and I was like, you let a temp, you're full time, you let a temp get you out of order like this?
Mm.
And he felt a little embarrassed because he was like, oh, damn, you right. Like, like you I feel like everybody in your life is at some level a temp because they're not gonna they're not gonna be there long term. So why would you, especially if you're like in traffic or the grocery store or just out in the street or whatever, and somebody bumps into you or says something crazy, it's like you're a temp. You're
Mm.
only gonna be here for as long as I can see you. So
Yeah.
why am I letting you get me out of order? Now, if they say something super disrespectful, something about your lady while you walk in, or whatever,
Oh, you gotta
it's not just directed at you, it's directed at people around you, then you have to handle that. But if it's just you and I already see. I already see
oh,
your face, Jeff.
handle
But
that.
they're,
It's like
they're
you
not
end up on YouTube, on World Star, getting jumped by 5 guys. You
yeah,
choose to do that. Just do accordingly. If it's one dude, yeah,
depending,
then
right.
But if you're with your girl and you got 5 dudes, you might want to just chalk that up to the game, bro. Is that if you really, catch
Right.
them slipping next time. Just keep it moving.
Right.
just
Depends on the
putting a
situation.
putting a
Completely
caveat on that.
circumstantial.
Yes,
Putting a caveat on that
it
one.
Right.
does depend. I mean, you know,
Hmm.
chairs even things
Yeah.
out, weapons. I mean, it gets. But that's what I said. We talk about aggression. We don't want to. You know what I mean? But I get where both of y'all coming from.
Right.
I like that temp piece
Yeah.
because it really is.
Yeah.
It's reframing. You're reframing it. You know,
Mhm.
really reframing it.
Hmm.
Like that, and something I've practiced over the years is it's like you have to sit and take inventory of the relationships that hold equity. Everybody does not hold equity and have voting rights on your board of life.
Mm.
Some
Right.
people here need to just shut the hell up, listen to the meeting because you don't have voting rights, but you're here. And
Hmm.
and if you don't have any voting rights and you're not sitting on my board of life, then you can't get none of my emotional equity. It's
Mm.
the equity, right? I'm not saying be human
Hmm.
and be a jerk about it, but at some point you got to go, this is out of your jurisdiction. You don't even have any.
You're just a janitor. What are you talking about?
I love this language. I love it so much. Like you're not because your life is your business.
You
You
already
know what I
just
mean? That's yeah, your life is your business. So that's a great way of putting it. It's like, yeah, nobody has that equity. And for those who may not understand like that piece of it, it's like you ever hear that term like, oh, I'm living in their head rent free. Like
oh
they're
yeah.
taking up more space than they should because of whatever the situation is. So don't give them that energy, that equity, that time because they're temporary. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of assholes running around here that are just like you said, some people are addicted to that rage or that I got to be an ass because this is the world, this is the way the world made me. Can you speak to
Mhm.
that being a product of your environment versus producing your environment. Does that make sense?
Oh, product of your environment. Yeah, how that's worded. Yeah, you think about it. The product of your environment is the culture that influences you. That's really what that environment is, and then also being able to be on the other side of that is when you're able to make conscious decisions in your philosophy of like, I see people navigate like this. When we have environments, we have culture. So we go, oh, it's acceptable to be like this and talk like this. You can tell that that's one track minded. So in order to be a producer of it, you got to be able to take inventory of that stuff and just go, do I want to participate in that? Because a lot of people don't even pause to say, am I going to participate in this? Somebody brings a torch, they automatically go, oh, you're trying to burn the place down. Well, they might just be going to go light something to cook something. Everything is not a riot. I mean,
you want some help? You want some help with that? Come on, Pookie. Let's burn this place down.
Right.
It's like, bro, I'm lighting the grill. Chill out.
That's like, damn, what's going on? Why are you grabbing me all on my shirt? Like, I didn't even see you standing here, man. I'm over here doing something with the kids, man.
Oh, man.
Right.
What's really going on here? And also for the street guys, I get it. I mean, I wasn't always a therapist. I'm from the Denver area, the Park Hill area, but this is the thing, it's a ghetto everywhere. And just that street philosophy, right? That's not sometimes a lot of times that's not applicable in business environments. They say, no, I don't want that deal, and I think you should do it my way. And then if he's still in that street philosophy, you might just look at him and say, man, maybe I should just crack your shit. And let's see if it's agreeable. Man, wow. You know what I mean? That type of maneuvering that you learn from the culture of the streets is not applicable when you are aiming for maturation within yourself or emotional maturation, right? Being able to go, man, that just happened. Did you think about it? People that often individuals that base their whole temperament and their personality on their environment is always the excuse, right? Oh man, shit. You know I come from the trenches. You know I come from 32nd. You know I come from 62nd. And it's just like, well, that's a magic bullet, ain't it? Why'd you kick the damn dog? That's what I want to know. Why'd you kick the dog? It still got nothing to do with 62nd, man. What?
Right.
We're on 31st. What are you talking about?
What's going on here, man? I grew up with you.
Answer.
Yeah. So you think about it, that's the environment and that's a culture, right?
Yeah.
So to be a producer of that is being able to go, okay, yeah, I used to be a street guy. Yeah, I got street parts of me. Yeah, I'm hyper vigilant. Yeah, I'm all those things. But I am also a man that sits down with my spirit to work on my maturation and evolution of self, and then also with relationships, right? You may have learned to do relationships somewhere else, and you just say, "Hey, it's all like this," and then you meet somebody, and then just is healthy, and you kind of like, "I don't know what to do here." That's a culture, right? Let the environment shape you.
Oh man.
That other piece, the production of that is the maturation of it. And if it ain't maturation, it ain't production.
Man, I was just thinking about I don't know why I popped in my head, but that's that scene from Rambo where he's in there with his sergeant, and the sergeant's like, "The war's over." He's like, "For you, the war's over for you. It's not over for me." And I was like, there's a lot of guys walking around that never left their block. I've met some dudes. Man, I'm from Compton. It's like, bro, we're in Colorado Springs.
I'm gonna ask you for directions. I mean,
it's like, what's that got to do with what we're talking about right now? It's like you're not there anymore.
Right.
It's like you can't bring Compton to Beverly Hills and think it's gonna work out.
No. This ass whooping is sponsored by Compton.
Yeah, that's the part. Yeah.
And then you get sent back there. and then you
Yeah.
just you
Right.
end up, if you move like that long enough, that's the only place you can go back to.
Oh, that's true.
For sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
because you're a product.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now
Mhm.
you're not producing. Now you become a product,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you go back, and then there's going to be 27 guys that got the same vibration like you, and now you're like, dang, I got to kick it up, and now you're in a war zone.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you go, and then that's the thing that I hate too. We talk about black on black violence, white on white violence. What are you talking about? We got to get rid of that type of language. We got to dismantle that stuff, because when we're in these environments where it is infested like that, looking at another black man and the first thing you see is an enemy, but then a police officer come down the road and you just kind of going, oh, that's just how it is. It's just like, but that dude look just more, that dude look just like you. That man has melanin
Nipsey,
like you.
Nipsey Hussle said it. He's what did
Yeah.
Nipsey? He said, man,
Yeah.
he said you lace up your shoes, you pull up your socks, you put on your clothes, and then you hop in, you strap yourself up and you hop in your car and you go drive around looking for a dude who looks just like you.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah.
Not the guy that not the square guy that's wearing a suit and on the way to the corporate. You leave him alone. Not the police officer that's roughing you up or different things like that. No, you go searching for the dude that looks exactly like you, that has his hair just like you, that has his
Yeah,
clothes just like you, that's carrying the same weapon you're carrying, and you choose to do battle with him.
yeah, and not
You're
even
out here trying to kill yourself.
yeah, and not even going after your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
How silly does this sound?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild, man. So man, I want to roll that into a question, man. Um, what is something that you've personally like gone through? And I've heard a lot of people say, there's always a phrase that says, a lot of healers get into the thing that they needed help with as they came up. A lot of if you were, me, I was a fat kid, so I became a trainer. This seems to be how it always goes.
Huh.
What was something that you overcame in your life, and use some of these tools to overcome that? Is there something that you could share with us as far as that goes? Doesn't need to be anything super deep or real personal or anything like that.
Yeah, anger and the lack of compassion growing
Mm,
up. To have those tools around that.
mm-hmm,
Well, actually, was going to give a semi joke, but this definitely ain't funny because as I sit and think about what got me on this alignment of this path. Because we don't get all to these places all alone. Some people say, I did it all on my own. It's just like, okay, did you make the car? Or did you make your clothes? I mean, what's going on? Did you birth yourself? You're a man. You came out of a woman. It don't look like you was a woman and it turned into a man. I mean, what's going on here? You know
well,
what I
it
mean?
is 2025, so
Well, I mean, that's
We're definitely not getting into
we're not even gonna get into that.
yeah, definitely
Definitely
gonna
not
get
getting
into that because it start getting weird, I mean, it's like, oh
into
man,
It's getting odd out here, bro. It's
yeah.
getting it's
Then I'm
getting
gonna
weird.
just say, man,
It's like Halloween all year long out in these streets.
yeah, man. Then I'm gonna go back to the mission statement. I said, man, I thought we was here to help the man here, man. What's going on here now? That's a left turn. What a sharp left.
Mhm.
But you whiplash, man. But but the anger,
Mm,
because it came a moment in my life where I realized, wow, you know, I'm a student of the universe.
mhm,
And as you learn, there's some things you need to unlearn. And then things that you haven't learned, that you've seen other people learn, that you have admiration for, that deems healthy according to your scale. When you don't know it, it's no confusion that you don't know it.
Mhm.
It's no confusion.
Right.
You can sit here and fake and act like you know Wolof. I speak Wolof. I said, Mangichi Jam Yo Knock. You don't know what the hell I just said. I just said, I am in deep peace. And you. We can't
mm,
fake this stuff.
mhm.
So when it came down to me really studying myself, I said, man, because I ain't never gonna tolerate no disrespect. I got many, many tools, but I don't play none of that. I don't play games like that. You know, if you want to play, go have some kids or go to the playground, because I don't play like that when it comes to disrespect. But there are ways of how I conduct myself in terms of the anger, because the anger would manifest, and then I would, when it was up, it was stuck. You know,
Mm.
and then that's when I realized. I said, "Damn, man!" I said, "Man, I really, I really want to have more than just a hammer, because every problem isn't the nail." And I feel like I'm handling this in a way that I feel like I'm surrendering something within me that I don't know I'm doing. You know, and another indicator is the indicator of your relationships.
Yeah.
You know, you can say, "Oh, I got healthy relationships all the way around." There's going to be conflict in relationships, but if you're around people and all they're doing is stealing and killing, and yeah, you're a part of that. Even the
Mm-hmm.
even the bank driver is a bank robber. You just driving the car.
Yeah.
Cut it out. You know, that's not what, you know what I mean? Accountability. So that was the main thing for me. And you know, I had a big blow up. I remember I had a big blow up. I really don't be outside like that. You know, I be where I'm supposed to be, in front of things I'm supposed to be in front of. So that's how I move. But years ago, it was over a decade ago, I did blow up, and you know, too much sauce. And I just remember, you know, when you just the thing when you say things, you can't unsay them. And I just remember thinking, golly, you know what I mean? It was just like, I don't ever want to be out of control like that again. Because they stepped up, they said, "Oh man," and da 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 da, our hood, da da da. And I'm not no talker. I'm just like, all right, well,
Yeah.
you want some action, you got it. You know what I mean?
Step into my office.
Oh, the office is right here.
I was
You know?
about to say that.
Oh, I deliver. I deliver. Watch out. Here
Deliver.
come again.
That's
Watch
that's,
out.
when,
You
that's
know?
when you break out that folding table. You're like, hey, it's right. Bow.
Oh, yeah, straight up. I deliver. Yeah.
Time for
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, we gotta travel. I got you right now. You know what I mean? We gotta talk about nothing. You know, and I know that then that was the thing that I just said, you know what? I do not like not having control like that.
Mm.
So that wasn't the moment where I said I should be a therapist. It was just, you know, that was just the ancestors, or, you know, aligning me, because I was a psychology professor for 5 years before I became a professor. So I mean before I became a therapist. And actually that last year of that. And so meeting a black male therapist was pivotal for me, because growing up I didn't. So that was the main thing. The anger. That's when I realized it was hurt. And that spills over into all your relationships, especially your romantic relationships.
Thanks.
You know, how
Mm-hmm.
you gonna be vulnerable? How you gonna be intimacy and not be vulnerable? It's like jumping in the water and not getting wet. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like
Wait,
my.
wait.
Don't
Why
look
you gotta
away.
talk, why you gotta talk about me like this, bro?
Oh, coming
This
down
is
on you, man.
you know, all I hear right now is Lauryn Hill
Oh yeah, hold on.
playing in the background.
Yeah,
this was actually a ruse. This is the therapy session, Travis. Welcome.
You said this is a setup. I knew it. I knew it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
knew it. Evan was way too excited about this session. He was way too excited about it. I should have known. He was like, "Come, sit down,
Come sit
and we
down.
and we will all read something in front of you." Yeah.
Yeah, no, honey.
Right.
This is your intervention.
Your game.
Right.
Why you double locking the door?
I know. It was like,
Right. Right.
hey,
No reason.
All good. Just don't, come around the side, get the left. No,
Right.
sit down. No, sit down. No, we got you, man. Damn, what the?
I love that I love that you brought up that relationship piece,
Oh, man.
because it's so, when we talk about our 4 pillars, relationships definitely goes in that masculinity column, because it is, like you said, with that equation, it's what happened. I mean, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but it's what happens, and you're that common denominator. It always comes back to you, because nobody is living your experience, right? So when it comes to the people that we interact with, whether it's, coworkers, spouse, friends, or whatever, who you have in that circle is so important, because they say you're the sum of the 5 people that you're with, but honestly, it's also the environment. It's who are they around, because you're getting that residual no matter what. You know what I mean? So what kind of advice would you give for men to be able to work through that emotional pain or just their emotions period. Let's not focus on the pain so much, but like working through their emotions period, because they're the head of household, or at least they should, and they're, you know, having to interact with children and women. And the reason why I say this is because personally, what I realized in myself is that there are times where, you know, I'll be having a good day, something is a little bit triggering to me, and I need to kind of like shut down so I'm not exploding after whatever the event is. And sometimes it's, you know, with my spouse, or maybe my son is, he's 6 months, so he's spitting up on me or something, and I'm like, I love this shirt. Now I got to deal with this baby. You know what I mean? What advice would you give for men to be able to deal with their family as that, you know, that provider, that protector with their emotions? How does the father or the husband deal with those emotional conflicts?
You got to have an outlet for yourself because we can't control people. You got to have an outlet. Read read books about philosophies to sharpen up your philosophies, right? Because in all of
Mhm.
those interactions, your philosophy is leading your behavior. This ain't about being perfect, but you got to have some type of outlet, whether that is journaling, whether that is doing a deep breathing reset, something that you can have a toolbox like a utility belt. So you don't got to look for the toolbox. You got it on you. You know,
Mhm.
you kind of go down. That really, really irritated me. And then also, you know, when you work on these things to be able to process your emotions, you know, the follow up is pivotal. The follow up is so
Mhm.
critical. You know, okay, this happens. All right. That follow up is like, I made an assumption. I do want to apologize to you about the assumption because there's a lot of people that want to take that, don't take no responsibility or accountability. So that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Power of the follow up. We can sit here and go, damn, I wish I didn't do that, or damn, I wasn't trying to pour it on them like this. And then, okay, but you already did it. But you got to have
Mhm.
some type of outlet. You got to have something that you do not compromise on, where it's like, man, I'm going to light this incense, or, I noticed this is a perfect time to take a mental time out. Let me go downstairs. Let me sit down and work on something creative and then come back. Not escapism. That's not what I'm talking
Mhm.
about. I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I'm not talking about that. And I'm not talking about putting your head in the sand, because if you put your head in your sand, your ass is still up in the air and you still get bit in the ass. So don't put your head in the sand. Don't do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your
Mhm.
conflict style is going to be driven by your philosophy. So the first thing is your outlet, your intentional outlet. You don't just fall on outlets and say, "Oh, damn, man, there's some more paint in there. I might as well paint right now." Man, come on. You know, you know when your meter is going. You know when your thermometer is going up. That's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why the outlet is so pivotal, because we can't control what people do. Some people have bad days and they expected, and they come in like hell on wheels. And then you saying, "Oh man," and some people don't stop till you stop them. I stop them. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop you." Whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on?
Setting
No.
boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah, set some boundaries, but the outlets for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you said, like you said, you'll get wound up. You kind of go, "Damn, man, I could have did without that today." Okay, that has happened. That's the power of the outlet. You can
Mm-hmm.
sit there and go,
Mhm.
"Yeah, okay, that did happen. All right. Hmm. How am I going to maneuver this? Okay. Okay, she's mad at me again. Okay, we had this conversation before. You see how outlets and processing, that piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
sometimes real time is not a real thing. You know, where you're just saying, "Damn, I wish I could have." Right? You know, sometimes days ain't good. Sometimes you're not okay, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the outlet
Mhm.
should be unchangeable. That shouldn't be optional in terms of if you're really going to regulate yourself in the way you desire. You got to have an outlet.
Mhm. For sure.
Yeah, I think
100%.
we talked about this in a few episodes back. We came with a concept called racking it. It's like,
Mm,
man, when that weight starts getting too heavy for you, man, it's like just like you're on the bench press. When it starts getting too heavy, man, there's sometimes you just got to rack it. You can't, you know, if you
mm.
just keep because you keep pushing, you can hurt yourself.
Yeah, yeah, for real.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. That's
So speaking of, since we're talking about emotions, um, I've ran into, and a lot of guys I think have a similar experience where we can have a difficult time expressing our emotions in a healthy way. Whether it be good emotions or bad emotions. We talked about the anger piece. Unfortunately, a lot of guys have the experience where a lot of the only emotions they have are either like happy or anger or something along those lines, and it's not. They have a hard time expressing it in a healthy way. And I'm not just talking about like not just expressing it with anger. I've met guys who don't say what they really feel. They're just like they almost are afraid to actually speak. And it's like you don't like this situation, but you're not willing to say out that you don't like the situation, so you just stay in this situation. What advice would you give the guys who are maybe finding themselves having a hard time expressing themselves and seeing it affect their relationships and their career and these different areas of their life?
Well, that's a good question. First thing I would say is, one pretty cool tool is called the emotion wheel, or the wheel of emotion. Being able to process your emotions and peg, okay, this is what it is right here in the middle. How am I feeling? And this is the thing. Granted, with some men may not have that language. So something that I would practice in that, especially in relationship, is being able to, because this is the thing, everything that comes to our mind needs to be said, and everything that people think about you, that's none of your damn business. What people think about you is none of your damn business. So what I would say to some men that are struggling in a relationship where they may feel like stagnant, or they're just like, man, I don't even have the language. Because some men don't have the language to even describe, like, that hurt me, or I felt anxious, or I felt disregarded, or I felt invalidated, or I felt, you see what I'm saying? So the first thing is you gotta broaden your mental language. Gotta broaden your philosophy language. You gotta broaden that stuff. See, when I say cool stuff like that, I gotta jot it down because
For sure, man, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a clip right there in this up right there. Boom, right there.
Right.
We're flipping that 100%.
Already. You gotta broaden that philosophy language, because that's the thing. If you only have bullshit and, oh hell no, and, oh keep it up, those aren't emotion words. Those are reactions.
Yeah.
So for the men that don't have the language, I would challenge you to get the language. Search for the language, right? And then if there may be some men going, man, how do I even find this language? Look at the Four Agreements, or look at the 99 Truths of Hannibal, or something that you can actually read to get words. Because if you don't know the words, if you don't know new words, you probably ain't reading new books. And if you're just sitting there making up stuff, this is kind of like, okay, what are we doing? This is getting silly now, because you got to be able to distinguish between a misunderstanding and a conflict.
Yeah.
Because if we cannot do that, everything is going to be a conflict. And we're constantly treating things like 10s when they're 2s. We are having a disagreement about, you want Chinese food and I want to have Asian food. That's a 2. That should not be no 10 where it's just like, really?
Hammer time.
Yeah, it's hammer time. What? You like this table? Yeah, it's like, over a restaurant? You treat 2s like 10s, man. You don't have the philosophical language extension. You got to, you know what I mean? So that's where I would say it would start, because what am I going to do? What can we really do? So we don't know. But be able to get that language and go to therapy if that is something that's an alignment there, and then the therapist that has some type of something that you kind of go, oh man, I kind of all right, doing my research, kind of, and once again, that's an outlet. We got to be able to have safe spaces. It's not a lot of safe spaces for us Black men. We deal with racial battle fatigue. We deal with white terrorism on a constant basis. And you mean to tell me we come home, we don't want to be worn in our homes.
No.
We don't want to be worn in
I was off the battlefield.
Yeah. So That's a long answer to say, extend your philosophy language. And for those men that see other men that they're close to, see them make some type of maturation change when you've known them to be a hothead, that may be a good idea, depending on how close you are with that person, to open up and say, hey man, every time I have this debate with my old lady, I go straight here and I do this, and it's like a wagon going down the hill, man.
Mm-hmm.
You experienced that before? Number one, two things is gonna happen. You ask this man that, he relates to that because it's evident you selected him for a reason. So for
Mm-hmm.
him to be able,
Mm,
he's not going to be all of the genie that give you all the answers like a magic bullet, but there's something in this person that you had seen and said, man, I think that this person navigates with some coolness. Two
Mm-hmm.
things gonna happen. That person either gonna say, yeah, I could relate to that, and ask you, well, why you think you get there? Da 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 da. Yeah, sounds very familiar. That's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I had to. Now you're getting language.
Nice.
what I found is like knowing having that language in your back pocket is almost like being backstage at an event. You can kind of see how everything is going on, and even though people in the audience don't know what's like how the lights work and who's on set and all this stuff, you do. So you were able to kind of catch things before there's any real mistake. But also it gives you the tool to see that in other people, where you can see where if somebody used to step on your shoe, you were getting, all aggro and getting ready to jump into a fight because of it. But then you see that happen to somebody else and you see their reaction. And if that's somebody that you're close to, you can kind of be like, hey man, I think I kind of know why this might be happening to you. Or if you're about to get into an argument with somebody and you see, like we said, everybody around you is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So if somebody's all pissed off at something, you can then de-escalate the situation, set those boundaries, and start to, work your way out of where it's like, hey man, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? You can say, whatever that you need to say to be able to maneuver out of that situation so that you can preserve the peace that you've been able to maintain or cultivate up until this point, because it really is about your peace of mind. At least that's what I've been finding out, kind of going through, evolving as a person myself, and just figuring out why do I act the way that I act in certain circumstances. You can go, you know what, this used to piss me off for 2 weeks. Now it's about a half an hour or a day, or I know how to work through this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is about shortening that distance between what you used to do and what the proper response is, instead of that reactionary state.
Yeah, well put. I second that.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, and thank you again so much for your time and being able to kind of walk us through mental health, I would say in general, for men, because I wasn't going to say something specific, but honestly, the mentality that you need to have in moving forward and trying to evolve, having some sense of emotional stability, understanding that you don't have to be a product of your environment. What would you say for men who are struggling with vulnerability and they feel like they don't have that safe space to be able to share these experiences that they're having and kind of get to those deeper levels? You had mentioned therapy. Is there anything else that you would encourage men to do to kind of help handle that vulnerability?
Be curious about what love is to you.
Mm.
Mm,
Be curious. Yeah, because vulnerability is a strong. It requires a strong degree of trust. When we're talking about intimacy in relationships, if I'm picking up what you're putting down, you're trying to help the men in relationships that are trying to navigate relationships they want to keep, or foster or repair, but also the relationships start with self. So to that piece, when you said vulnerability and intimacy, I would say be curious about love. Read Bell Hook, all about love. Read Tottenham Hahn's, book on love, or some of these pieces. Because you think about it, if you're not brave enough to put aside your toxic masculinity to read a book about love, or read a book written by a woman, you got way more issues than you even can admit.
mm,
Mm.
You got more issues than just
understand.
vulnerability. There's a lot of stagnation there. How can you be curious about love? How can you be curious about making the connection if you have a mother wound or a father wound? And if you are attracting the same person with a different name, or if you attracting your attributes of your mama that you
Oh,
don't like.
facts.
Yeah, I'm
It
yeah,
happens.
man,
Facts.
man, I'm like this
Facts.
for real. You know,
Oh yeah.
and it, you know,
Man.
when you see these things, you kind of go, damn. So what that says to me, if you see something like that in the mother wound, you're gonna go, man, that kind of grinds my gears every time that happens. What that says to me is like, dang, there's something unresolved.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Man.
then every if you do not work on healing that part or that interaction with that wounded woman, every woman will be a wounded woman in your eyes the minute there is a disagreement or some type of discourse,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
because it's unsettled. And I don't know if this is my last question here, but I always end all my interviews with the quote. But this is the thing: wherever you find your time, you find your heart. Don't waste your heart.
Mm.
Wherever you find your time, you find your heart. Don't waste your heart. So if you are in contentious places and you want to foster vulnerability and intimacy, it's not going to just happen off of ideals. You can't eat just ideals. It has to be some type of plan, something implemented to it, time, and that's where your heart is. So you
Mm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
be curious about love. You
Mm.
got to be curious about understanding, because love is not enough. Be curious about
Yeah.
understanding yourself and understanding this person, not just love alone,
Mm-hmm.
but be brave enough to be curious about that, but be even more courageous about understanding yourself and brave enough to understand that other person or that woman in your life if you actually
Mm-hmm.
want to have true intimacy, because intimacy is vulnerability.
Mm.
Okay.
Man.
You know,
This
I
is-
think I think we actually need to talk about love more on this show. That's something that I didn't think that was going to come up. So thank you so much for that, because that we talk about self love a little bit, but we don't talk about the true kind of like purpose of that relationship between a man and a woman, and how to help men understand that it's okay to be loved. You know what I mean? Having that self love and understanding that you deserve to be, well, as Travis like to say, you have to earn the love of other people. But it's like
Yeah, yeah,
just the fact that you're trying to have a relationship that's beneficial for everybody. You know what I mean? You should be trying to build a community and a family if that's what you want, and just having those personal relationships, because we need people need people, and you can't do any of this alone, whether it's the person who helped you get a car so you can drive, or like you said, making your clothes and all these things. It's like you can't do everything by yourself. It's impossible.
that's true, right? I agree with you.
Man, bro, this will definitely not be the last conversation we have. 100%. 100%.
Much respect.
Because apparently I need more sessions. So,
Yeah.
but no, man, we super appreciate you, man. Hey, tell everybody where they can find you, man, so we can, and we'll definitely be putting the links down in the description as well, for them to be able to reach out and find out more about you and what you do, because it's definitely needed in our community for sure.
Yeah, so inner self is wisdom is innerselfandwisdom.com. Inner is just the INNER, and it's spelled just like it is, self and wisdom. And then my books, it's on Amazon. My poet name is Black Azar. It's black, and then Azar is AUSAR. Let's see, what else? Oh, the Black Mental Health and Wellness Coalition. You just type that in, that'll come right up. Yeah. And then I have a clothing line, Success Day Glory. Um, be releasing that much later in the year, but ain't that hard to find on the internet. It's outside because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm getting it done, and I'm heading back to where I need to be, taking care of my family. So, but yeah, if you just type in Jason Shankle as well, my LinkedIn will pop up, other things, stuff I'm bringing forth, and oh
I
yeah,
also
Ah,
yeah, we it's kind of blurred out, so give me one sec. I want to make sure everybody can see this. So this suffer less was the first thing that Jason gave me when we met, because he had just released this book. It just has like a whole bunch of quotes in here that you can just open it up, turn to any page, and you're bound to get some wisdom because they're all very short, easy to digest, perfect for a morning routine. So yeah, Suffer Less by Black Azar. I definitely recommend getting this book, man.
Okay, right on. Read one, bro. Read one.
Let's see.
Hey, let's see the magic.
There you go.
A piece of okay. So
Good
a
one
piece
you're
of
fired.
peace will only leave. You said what?
So it better be a good one or you're fired.
Right. So it's actually okay. This does kind of go with what we talked about today. A piece of peace will only leave fragments of autonomy. So a piece of peace will only leave fragments of autonomy. So you talked about, that mental health, or mental health being that overall sovereignty, for a man. So if you're only taking a piece, if you're only having peace in a couple different areas of life, you don't have that full control over everything. So whether it's addictions, anger, shutting yourself off emotionally, you don't have that full control. So it behooves you honestly to try to make sure that you're hitting all of these different aspects. And like we say at Warriors Way Home, the four main pillars that a lot of this stuff goes into is self-mastery, masculinity, entrepreneurship, and combat. So if you can have a piece of peace, or you can get as much peace as you can in each one of these pillars, you're going to be far better off if you only had one or two, or just that smaller amount. You are the sum of all these things. What is it? The quote is, you are the
sum of all the
sum
pieces.
of
All your
yeah, it's the sum is greater than its parts.
And that's dope. Yeah, I second that. Yeah, I did. That was. I didn't even say the name of my books. Let me say the name of my books. That might be helpful.
Sure.
The first book is Soul Searching Poetry. The second one is Crowns and Shattered Dreams. Those are poetry books. And then this third one that Edmund was mentioning is Suffer Less, Meditation for Transforming Trauma into Healing. That piece. And then I have a new one that I'm working on, Notes You Will Never Know. About to be dropping this one pretty soon here. I'm excited about this project. But no, hey man, right on. Bringing the book on. But yeah, that third is philosophical quotes. So yeah, man,
it's an easy read. I definitely recommend it.
Right on. Much respect.
Oh man. So Edmund, tell them where they can find us, bro.
Yes, sir. So you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, everywhere where you just put in Warriors Way Home, you'll find us. Also, definitely check out our Kajabi communities. Our free one is the Warbound. That's just for men who are looking to start that process of getting into their power, honestly, and becoming more honorable, well-rounded, dangerous men, like we like to say. And then we have the paid for community, which is the Legion, where we get a bit more into the entrepreneurship, the combat side of things, self-mastery, masculinity. The paid membership, goes into a lot deeper about the topics that we talk about, early access to new content, all that kind of thing, direct access to us. So if you're wanting to kind of dig deeper into these four pillars, but also just kind of figure out what type of man you want to be, definitely jump into one of those two communities, and just catch our previous episodes as well.
And we also have a link to the first two free episodes, the first two free lessons in our course, the 8 Inner Gates, where we help you develop the foundation for yourself as a man, with principles that have been around for centuries, from the ways of the samurai, honor, integrity, respect, all these different things like that, digging into those things to set yourself up a good foundation so that you can start to build up a lot of these things, including love, bro, because like we always say, man, you got to fight your fight, and sometimes you got to fight for love, because you much rather be a warrior in a garden.
Yeah, garden in the war. See you guys next time.
Take it easy, guys.
Right on.
Peace.